The days became warmer, and the crops continued to grow strong. The once quiet and lonely farm was now full of life. Birds returned to the fields, and wildflowers grew along the fences. Luke found himself smiling more often. Elara and her children had brought new energy to his land and to his heart. One morning, Luke and Elara were planting a new row of vegetables near the back of the field. Myra and Solon were chasing butterflies nearby. Luke paused and wiped the sweat from his forehead. "The soil here used to be dry and cracked," he said. "Now it's soft and rich. I don't understand how." Elara placed a hand gently on the ground. "My people learn to care for the earth in special ways. It listens when we treat it with respect. We shared life with it, not just took from it." Luke nodded slowly. "You talk like the land is alive." "It is," she said. "Everything is connected." That night, Elara told Luke more about her world. They sat near the fire, and the children slept peacefully nearby. Her voice was soft as she spoke about tall mountains, glowing rivers, and trees that sang in the wind. "We had a deep bond with our planet," she said. "But when war came, everything changed. Machines took over the forests. Our villages were burned. Many fled, but not all found safety." Luke listened without interrupting. He could see the pain in her eyes. "I lost my mate," Elara continued. "He was kind like you. He believed in helping others. I try to honor him by teaching my children the same." Luke felt a deep respect for her. She had lost so much, yet she still found the strength to care, to teach, and to grow. The next day, something strange happened. While checking the far side of the field, Solon called out, "Luke, there's something here!" Luke and Elara ran over. Buried in the dirt was a small metal object. It looked old but still had lights blinking slowly. Elara's face grew serious. "It's a signal beacon," she said, "from my people. But it shouldn't be here." Luke picked it up carefully. "What does it do?" "It sends a message through space," Elara said. "Someone may be looking for survivors, or for those who ran." "Is that bad?" Luke asked. "It could be either. We must be careful." Elara took the beacon and hid it under the floor in the barn. She covered it with hay and old tools. That evening, Luke sat thinking long after the fire had died down. If someone from Elara's past came, would they take her and the children away? Would they bring danger to the farm? The next morning, Luke found Elara sitting alone by the fence. She looked up at him, her eyes tired. "If they come," she said, "I don't want you or the children to be hurt." "We're not running," Luke said. "This is your home now. You're not alone." She nodded, and a tear ran down her cheek. Over the next few days, they continued working, but their eyes often turned toward the sky. Luke kept the tools sharp and ready. He taught Myra and Solon how to hide if they heard loud noises or saw ships. Overhead. One quiet night, Myra brought Luke a small flower she had picked from the field. "It's for you," she said, "because you're nice." Luke smiled and took it. "Thank you, Myra. You're very sweet." "Are we really safe here?" she asked. Luke looked at the stars. "We're safer than before, and I'll do everything I can to keep it that way." Elara joined them and wrapped her arms around her children. Luke felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't known in years. Even with the unknown ahead, there was peace in that moment. And sometimes peace was enough to keep going. Luke woke up to a quiet morning. The sky was cloudy, and the air was cooler than usual. He stepped outside with his cup of tea and looked over the fields. Even with less sunlight, the plants stood strong. Elara and the children were already working. Myra was carrying a bucket of water, and Solon was feeding the chickens. Elara looked up and gave a small wave. Luke smiled and waved back. Later that day, while they were tending to the crops, Elara paused and stood still for a moment. Her eyes were focused on the dirt near the fence. "Someone was here last night," she said. Luke walked over and looked down. He saw boot prints. They were deep and fresh. "Greg must have come back," Luke said. "Or maybe someone else from town." Laura looked uneasy. She didn't say anything, but her body was tense. That evening, Luke went to town to get more supplies. As he walked through the market, people stared. A few whispered to each other. He ignored them at first, but then Greg stepped in front of him. "You're still keeping that alien and her kids on your land?" Greg asked. "Yes," Luke answered calmly. "She's helped more than anyone else ever has." "You don't know what she's really planning," Greg said. "They're not like us." "What if they turn on you?" Luke looked him in the eye. "She's done nothing but work hard and care for her children. That's all I see." Greg didn't respond. He turned and walked away, but Luke knew this wasn't over. When Luke returned to the farm, Elara met him by the gate. "They are watching us," she said. "We must be careful." Luke nodded. "I won't let anyone hurt you." That night, Luke stayed up late. He checked the doors and made sure the lights were off. The stars above were clear, and the wind moved softly through the trees. Everything was quiet. Suddenly, a loud sound broke the silence. Luke jumped up. It came from the barn. He grabbed the light and ran outside. Elara was already there, holding a tool in one hand. Mira and Solon hid behind her. A group of shadowy figures was near the barn. One of them stepped forward. "We warned you," the man said. It was Greg. "Get off." "My land?" Luke shouted. "Now." "She doesn't belong here," Greg said. "We don't want her kind mixing with us." Elara stood tall. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "We do not want trouble." "Too late for that," Greg said, and took a step forward. Without warning, Elara raised her hand, and a small beam of light shot from a device on her wrist. It hit the ground near Greg's feet, making a loud spark. He stumbled back. "Leave," she said firmly. Greg and the others looked shaken. They backed away, then ran off into the night. Luke stood beside Elara, breathing hard. "Where did that come from?" "I hid it," she said. "For safety. I will not let them hurt my children." Luke looked at her with new respect. "You did the right thing." The next morning, the town council sent a message. Luke was called to speak. He dressed simply and went into town. The council hall was full. People sat in rows, watching him as he stood at the front. One of the council members, a woman named Claire, asked, "Is it true you use force against townspeople?" "They came at night," Luke said. "They came with bad intentions." Elara only protected her family. Another man stood. "She's not one of us. She could be dangerous." Luke shook his head. "She saved the crops. She protected my land. She's kind. Her children laugh and play like any other child. That's what matters." The room was silent for a moment. Then Claire spoke again. "We will vote. She can stay if the town agrees." Luke waited outside as the vote was cast. He paced back and forth. Heart heavy. Finally, Claire came out. "It was close," she said, "but the vote was in your favor. Elara and her children may stay, as long as they do no harm." Luke let out a breath of relief. Back at the farm, he shared the news. Elara smiled. The children hugged him. Luke felt peace again, but deep inside, he knew the danger was not gone. He would protect them, no matter what. Each day on the farm felt a little more alive. Luke started waking up before sunrise, not out of duty, but because he looked forward to the morning. Elara was always already in the field when he stepped outside, her hands in the soil, her movements smooth and quiet. She did not speak much, but when she did, her words were clear and thoughtful. The children, Myra and Solon, were becoming stronger. They helped more with the farm. Mira liked watering the small crops, and Solon liked watching the chickens. Luke found an old basket and gave it to Myra so she could carry vegetables more easily. She smiled and hugged it tightly. One afternoon, a small hover cart rolled down the dusty path to Luke's farm. It was Greg, a trader from the nearest town. He stepped out and waved. "Luke," he called, walking toward the house. "Got any crops to trade yet?" Luke nodded and pointed toward a few crates near the shed. Greg walked over, inspecting the vegetables. His eyes narrowed as he noticed the neat rows of plants and how green everything looked. "Your land wasn't doing this well last time I came," he said. "What changed?" Luke paused for a moment. He looked at Alara, who stood quietly near the edge of the field with Mira and Solon. Greg followed his gaze. "Who's that?" Greg asked. "She's helping with the farm," Luke said. "Name's Alara." Greg frowned. "She's not human." "No, she's not. But she works hard. I give her food for her and her kids." "That's the deal." Greg shook his head. "People in town won't like this. Aliens coming this close to our land. Some of them think it's dangerous." "She's not dangerous," Luke said. "She's a mother. She just wants her children to eat." Greg didn't argue more, but his face showed worry. He loaded some of the vegetables onto his cart and left without saying goodbye. Luke stood still, watching the trail of dust fade in the distance. Later that evening, Alara walked up to him while he was fixing a broken water pipe. "You didn't like us," she said softly. "People fear what they don't know," Luke replied. "But I know you're not here to cause trouble." Alara nodded. She looked at the pipe and then touched a small part of it. Her fingers moved carefully, and the leak stopped. Luke blinked, surprised. "You know plumbing too?" he asked. "A little," she said. "We have machines like this back home." Luke smiled. "You're full of surprises." That night, the stars were bright in the sky. Luke sat on the porch with a cup of warm tea. Mira and Solon chased fireflies near the barn, their laughter echoing across the field. Alara joined him for a while, sitting quietly. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For letting us stay." "For not turning us away." Luke looked at her. "You're the one keeping this place alive. I should be thanking you." The days passed, and the crops grew taller. People from town began to notice the difference. Some came to ask questions. Luke told them the truth, but many still looked unsure when they saw Alara and her children. Day, a woman from town named Laura stopped by. She had a small child with her and held a basket of fruit. "I heard your farm's doing well," Laura said. "I wanted to trade, if that's all right." Luke nodded and invited her in. Alara was nearby holding a basket of tomatoes. Laura looked at her but didn't say anything at first. Then her child walked over to Solon, and the two began playing with sticks and rocks like old friends. "They seem happy," Laura said. "They are," Luke replied. Laura gave Alara a soft nod. Alara smiled. It was the first time someone from town had smiled back. That evening, Luke noticed something. The land wasn't just getting better because of work. It was because of care. Alara touched the plants like they were family. She whispered to them sometimes. Luke didn't understand the words, but the plants seemed to. He tried it one day, kneeling by a row of beans and speaking to them. He felt silly at first, but then he saw how the leaves leaned toward the sun, strong and green. He didn't know if it was magic or just kindness, but it worked. Luke began to write notes on everything Alara taught him. He started planning for the next season. The farm, once dry and hopeless, now had a future. Alara and her children had become part of that future. And even if others still didn't accept him, Luke did. He was no longer farming alone. Luke woke up early, just as the sun began to rise over the hills. The light was soft, and the air was still. His small farm stood quiet and empty. He had been working alone for months since the other farmers left after the last food shortage. Supplies had become low, and life on this distant planet was getting harder. Luke stayed because he had nowhere else to go. This farm was all he had. He walked to the barn with a tired face and aching legs. His tools were old, and the fields were dry. The soil needed care, but he could only do so much by himself. As he opened the barn door, he stopped. There was someone standing near the edge of the field. It was a tall woman. Her skin was pale with a soft glow, and her eyes were large and silver. Her clothes were simple and worn. She did not look like any human. Behind her stood two small children who looked just like her, only thinner and weaker. They clung to her long dress and watched Luke with wide eyes. Luke took a step forward, unsure of what to say. The woman raised her hand slowly. "I am Elara," she said in a quiet voice. "These are my children. We have no food. I will work your fields if you feed them." Luke looked at her for a long moment. He had never seen her kind before. Many settlers talked about strange visitors from the outer lands, but he never thought he would meet one. Her voice was gentle, and her eyes showed. "No fear, only tiredness." "You're not from here," Luke said slowly. "No," she replied. "We escaped from the north. Our village is gone. My children are all I have." Luke looked down at the children. They looked hungry. Their cheeks were hollow and their legs thin. He rubbed the back of his neck. He had just enough food to last. A few more weeks. Sharing it would make things harder, but turning them away didn't feel right. "You can stay in the barn," he said. "You work, I feed. That's the deal." Elara nodded. Her children stayed close to her, still watching him. Luke turned and walked toward the house, not looking back. He did not know if he had made a good choice, but something in her voice told him it was the right one. That evening, Elara started. Working in the fields, she moved quietly but quickly. Her long fingers moved through the soil, as if she knew it well. Luke watched her from the porch. He was surprised. She did not complain or rest. The children sat under a tree, eating small pieces of bread he had given them. They smiled for the first time. Luke sat alone inside that night, thinking. The house felt different now. It wasn't just his anymore. There were others on his land. He didn't know how the people in town would react if they found out, but he couldn't worry about that yet. Tomorrow would come soon. The next few days passed quietly. Elara rose before sunrise and worked until the sun went down. She asked for nothing more than a little food for her children. Luke began to talk to her in short sentences. She listened and answered softly. Her voice was always calm. One morning, as they worked side by side, Luke asked her, "How do you know so much about farming?" She smiled, just a little. "My people grew food on mountain soil. It was poor and dry, but we learned to make it live. The land speaks if you listen." Luke didn't fully understand, but he liked the way she said it. He started trying the things she showed him. Soon, the dry patches of land began to look greener. Seeds started to sprout faster. Luke couldn't believe it. The children began to help too. They were still small, but they carried tools, brought water, and laughed while running between the rows. Luke started to enjoy their voices. It had been a long time since he heard laughter on the farm. One night, as he closed the door and looked out over the land, he saw Elara sitting with her children near the barn. They sat close together, a small fire burning beside them. The soft glow of the flames lit their faces. They looked peaceful. Luke leaned against the doorframe. He didn't say anything, but deep inside, something began to change. Maybe it was the sound of laughter or the smell of new plants in the soil. Maybe it was the way Elara always kept her promises. Whatever it was, Luke felt less alone. For the first time in many months, he smiled. And just like that, the farm felt like a home again. The sun had just set when Luke heard a loud humming sound in the distance. It wasn't like the sound of wind or farming machines. This was different. It was deep and steady, like something large moving through the sky. He stepped outside quickly. Elara was already looking up. Her eyes were wide. "It's a ship," she whispered. "It's not from this planet." Luke watched as a small dark shape moved across the stars and disappeared behind a hill. It didn't land, but it had flown low enough to be seen. "Do you think it's looking for the beacon?" he asked. "Maybe," Elara said. "Or maybe it's just passing by. But we must be ready." That night, no one slept well. Luke kept a small light on in the kitchen and checked the windows often. Elara stayed near her children, listening to every sound. Outside, even the animals were quiet, as if they also felt something strange in the air. In the morning, Luke and Elara went to the barn and checked the beacon. It was still hidden under the hay. Elara placed her hand over it and listened. "It's silent," she said. "But if it was activated before, the signal may have reached far." Luke nodded. "Then we wait, and we stay alert." A few days passed. The weather turned hot, and the fields needed more water. But the mood on the farm was not the same. Everyone worked, but they were quiet. The laughter was gone. One evening, while checking the fence, Luke noticed something strange. The old wooden gate at the far end was open. It had been closed the day before. He called Elara and showed her. She studied the ground carefully. "More boot prints," she said. "Different from the last ones. These are heavier." Luke looked toward the trees beyond the field. "We're being watched." That night, Luke moved some supplies into the barn. He created a small safe place behind some barrels, just in case. He gave Myra and Solon simple instructions. "If anything happens, go here and stay quiet. Don't come out until Elara or I call you. Understand?" The children nodded. They were scared, but they listened. Elara sat with Luke outside the barn. The moon was full, and the stars shone bright. "This world is quiet," she said, "but it hides danger too." "I never thought my farm would become part of something like this," Luke replied. She looked at him. "You didn't ask for it, but you chose to help. That makes you strong." Luke didn't feel strong. He felt tired and worried. But her words helped. Just before dawn, they heard it again, the humming sound. This time, it was closer. A large ship flew low and circled the valley. Lights scanned the ground. Elara pulled the children into the barn. Luke stayed outside with a tool in hand. The ship moved away, then came back and hovered over the fields. Then, without warning, it landed. A ramp opened, and 3 tall figures walked out. They wore silver armor and helmets with dark glass. One of them held a small device, blinking with red light. Luke stepped forward slowly. "This is private land. What do you want?" The tallest figure removed their helmet. It was a woman, with pale blue skin and dark eyes. "We are looking for someone," she said. "A woman and 2 children, survivors of a lost colony." Elara stepped out from behind the barn. She walked calmly toward them. "I am Elara," she said. "These are my children." "We came here for peace." The blue-skinned woman studied her. "You are listed as missing. Some thought you were dead. Others believed you were taken." "We were not taken," Elara replied. "We escaped. We survived. And now we have a home." "This world is not yours," the woman said. Luke stepped beside Elara. "She works this land. She saved it. She belongs here as much as I do." The 3 figures spoke quietly to each other in another language. Then the woman turned back to Elara. "You are not a threat. We will leave you for now, but we may return. Others may come. Be ready." They turned and walked back into the ship. The ramp closed, and the ship lifted off. It rose into the sky and disappeared into the stars. Luke stood beside Elara, heart pounding. "You could have gone with them," he said. "I chose to stay," she replied. "This is my home now." The sky grew light as morning came. The children came out of hiding and ran to Elara. She held them close. Luke looked out over the fields. The danger had passed, but he knew more might come. Still, they were together, and they would face whatever came next as a family. Days passed after the ship left, but the memory of its visit stayed. Luke kept checking the sky every morning and night. Elara, though calm on the outside, also seemed more quiet than before. She worked with focus, but her eyes always watched the horizon. Myra and Solon stayed close to their mother. They sensed the worry even if no one spoke of it. Luke tried to keep things normal. He joked with the kids, fixed fences, and planted seeds, but there was a heaviness on the farm. Then something unexpected happened. People from town began visiting. First was Laura, the woman who had traded fruit before. She came with her son and a basket of sweet corn. "You said your crops were doing better," she said. "I was wondering if you and your friend could help me with mine." Luke was surprised. You want Elara's help? Larva nodded. If she's willing, my land has been dry since last season. Elara looked at Luke. He gave her a small smile. Elara stepped forward and gently said, I will help. That week, more people came. They brought gift stools, seeds, food, and asked Elara to visit their farms. Luke watched as the fear people once had slowly turned into curiosity and then respect. The town school teacher, Mr. Dalton, came to the farm. He watched Mira and Solon playing near the barn and said, they should learn with other children. They can join the school if you agree. Elara hesitated. Will they be safe there? Mr. Dalton nodded. I will make sure they are. They'll be treated like all other children. Luke placed a hand on Elara's shoulder. It's your choice, but I think it's a good sign. Elara finally agreed, and the next day, Mira and Solon walked to town with books in hand and big smiles. On their faces, Luke worked the fields alone that morning and looked out over the land. He thought about how much had changed. He once worked in silence, day after day. Now the sounds of laughter and life filled the air. Later that week, Greg returned. He came without anger this time. He stood at the edge of the field, looking unsure. I was wrong, he said. I judged too quickly. Your land is thriving, and people are talking. They say your friend saved this place. Luke nodded. She did, and she's done more than that. Greg sighed. Some of us were scared. I still don't fully understand her, but I can see she's not a threat. She's family now, Luke said. Greg looked down at the ground. If she ever needs help, tell her she can call. As time passed, the town changed too. People planted new trees, repaired old homes, and even held a small festival. Elara brought strange fruits from her garden and showed the children how to use glowing stones that could warm food without fire. The mayor gave small speech during the festival. There was a time we feared what was different, but now we learn from it. We grow together. Everyone clapped. Elara stood near the back, holding Solon's hand. Luke stood beside her, proud. That night, after the festival, Luke and Elara walked back to the farm. The sky was full of stars. You changed this town, Luke said. We changed it, she replied. Together. They reached the gate and stopped. Luke looked at her. Do you think they'll come back? The ones from the ship? Maybe, she said. But we will be ready. And now we won't face them alone. Luke smiled. He felt stronger than ever, not because of weapons or walls, but because of the people standing with him. Back inside the house, Mira and Solon were already asleep. Luke and Elara sat near the fire. There were no words for a while, only the crackle of flames. Then Elara said, Thank you, Luke, for giving us a chance. Luke looked at her. You gave me one too. I just didn't know it at the time. They sat there until the fire faded. Outside, the farm rested under the stars, safe and whole, and in that stillness, a quiet promise was made. No matter what came next, they would face it together. The days turned into weeks, and the farm kept growing strong. The trees were full of fruit, the fields were green, and flowers bloomed along the fences. Birds sang each morning, and the air was warm and fresh. Life had become peaceful again. Luke stood at the edge of the field, watching the wind move through the crops. Elara stood beside him, her eyes soft and calm. She had not spoken of the ship in many days. Neither had he. But they both remembered. They knew it could return. Still, the fear no longer ruled their hearts. The town had changed. People greeted Elara with smiles. Mira and Solon were happy at school. They brought home new words, drawings, and laughter. Every evening they sat together at dinner and shared stories. One morning, Luke got up early and started building something new beside the house. He had saved wood for many weeks. He wanted to surprise Elara and the children. When Elara saw it, she tilted her head. What are you making? A greenhouse, Luke said. For your special plants? You've given me so much. I wanted to give something back. Alara smiled. Thank you. That is kind. Myra and Solon helped too. They carried small pieces of wood and place, stones around the edges. The whole family worked side by side. It took a few days, but soon the greenhouse was finished. Alara placed her glowing seeds inside. She showed Luke how to care for them. These plants are from my old home, she said. They are strong, but they grow better with love. Luke nodded. Then they'll grow well here. The plants inside glowed faintly at night, giving the greenhouse a soft blue light. The farm looked magical under the stars. One day, a message came from the town council. They were planning a special day to honor people who had helped rebuild the community. They wanted Luke and Alara to speak. Luke wasn't. Sure, he didn't like being in front of a crowd. But Alara said, we will do it together. At the event, people from all over the town gathered. There were music, food, and decorations. Children ran around playing, and the air was full of joy. When it was their turn, Luke stepped up first. He cleared his throat. Many of you know I lived alone for a long time. I didn't expect things to change. But one day, a mother and her 2 children came to my farm. They needed food. She offered to work. That's how it started, but it became more than just work. Alara taught me how to listen to the land. Her children brought laughter back into my home. They didn't just help me. They gave me a new life. People clapped softly. Then Alara stepped forward. I came to this world with fear. I had lost my home, my family, and my safety. But I found kindness here. I found a place where my children could grow. I found someone who gave us a chance. She looked at Luke. Now, this place is our home too. We are not so different. We all want peace, work, and love. I thank you for letting us stay. The people stood and clapped louder. Some had tears in their eyes. After the event, many came forward to shake their hands. Some gave Alara seeds, books, and small gifts. Myra and Solon were given handmade toys. The town had truly accepted them. That night, they walked back home under the stars. The farm was quiet. The wind moved gently through the trees. Luke looked at Alara. Did you ever think this would happen? No, she said, but I hoped. And you made it real. They reached the porch and sat down. The children were already asleep. The soft light from the greenhouse glowed behind them. Luke leaned back. Do you miss your old world? Alara looked at the sky. Sometimes, but this is our world now. We have made it good. Luke nodded. He felt a deep peace inside him. The farm, once broken and dry, was full of life. And so was his heart. As the night grew deeper, they sat together in silence. The stars above watched over them. Whatever the future held, they would face it side by side. They were not just survivors anymore. They were a family,